It's Jake Popperstead. I'm doing my week 12 interpersonal communications activity, and that is number 2, assessing cultural and gender influences on intimacy in interpersonal relationships. I can never get through reading that or saying that without messing up somewhere. Um, I chose to interview my friend Rita. A little background on her. She's had a very, very different life. She never knew her father. She basically was on her own since the age of 16, and she's 18 now, and currently living with her mother down in Wisconsin. And we talk occasionally. It's scattered more now since she moved. But uh, I can't remember if I mentioned this. She's never known her father. Her father is Mexican, and her mother is Caucasian or white from Nordic or Germanic origins. And she never knew her father's side of the family or anything like that. And what was I going to say? That being said, she was raised by her mother and her sister and the rest of her family, just like anyone else would, except for the fact that she's been on her own since about 16. She's been living with her sister, and at 16, she dropped out of high school for personal reasons. And ever since then, she's been, just doing her best to get by, just like the rest of us. I'm proud to say that she's a very, very good friend of mine, and I admire her and love her deeply. And when I decided to interview her, I did not know what entirely to expect. Being from 2 different cultures like that, living in so many different diverse areas, I figured that I'd notice at least a few differences in how she takes on her takes in relationships, and I did. So, starting off, what role do shared activities play in your relationship? When I said that, she has never really had a really good relationship. She's never been in a really stable or relationship or anything like that. And normally she only goes on a few dates. Maybe, I don't know, spends a night with a guy around, a friend or something like that, every here and then. But, like I said, it's just like the rest of us. When I asked her that question, she skipped straight to the topic of dating. Just the beginning. And I've been following her love life pretty closely lately. And in the past, too, since we first met, we've been very good friends. We were on the verge of dating for a while. I took her out once or twice, and that was fun, but nothing more ever really came of it. That being what it is, normally her shared activities are, you go out to a movie, you go out to dinner, you just sit at home, watch a movie, make dinner, this normal couple of sort of stuff. And she says that's a very, very important part of her relationship, and that's understandable. She also went on to say that although it is very important in a long-term relationship for her, that's something she'd want in the long term, dating-wise, she's not too fond of it. And ultimately, she'd rather go out for dinner and just relax, try to have a casual conversation than make a big deal about it, which is very understandable. and she never pays for dinners. Um, Simply because of the fact that most guys will pay for the food, for the meal, the movie, whatever, which is great. But she's also a very, very, very strong-willed person. If you try to catch her off her guard, she will make you pay for it. Out of wallet or any other sort of form that she deems necessary. And normally, her strength of will really pays off when it comes to these sort of things. Guy tries to screw her, like, well, that probably came out wrong. Guy tries to screw over and make her pay for the meal after they've already ordered and eaten and stuff like that, and they had agreed before. This has happened a few times. She either gets up and walks out before the check comes, or when the check's arriving, or she will make them pay and then never see them again. She's, like I said, very strong-willed, and it's very, very... I really admire that in her, that she can stand up for herself like that. What role does intellectual intimacy play in your relationship? Now, this is one I found interesting. As we talk, I know a lot about what goes on up here with her. And she has a lot of very, very different views on it than we do. She's very standoffish. She's never known love and finds it very, very hard to even conceive the concept. So the intellectual intimacy, it spans more towards physical intimacy. Men and women, she's bisexual, of high intellects tend to arouse her interest and arouse her physically more than people of lower intellects with a better physical look, a better physical build, and stuff like that. So people with higher intellect, people who can communicate better, speak more clearly, and connect with her on an intellectual level are far more likely to be with her than some jerk who really has no business even talking with her. And normally she does put an end to that right away. If they don't interest her intellectually, it doesn't last long. Any sort of conversation doesn't. So needless to say, with her, intellectual intimacy plays a massive role. You may notice I'm viewing her more as a person than her culture as a whole. When I look at Marita, I don't see a culture. I don't see black and white. She is half her family is Asian. Her father is Mexican and her mother is Norwegian. There are so many different roles going on there. She is unique. I cannot base this off of simply her culture anymore. And that's partially why I did this on her. I viewed it as a challenge, and not just that, but as a way to inform people that A, not everyone's going to follow cultural bias. Like, for example, my father married a Chinese woman a few years back, and although she does fit the normal standards of, the classic Chinese housewife, she's very strong-willed, and she's not afraid to voice her opinion whatsoever. Her pet name for my father, which he used to hate and he's sort of come to love, I like to think, her pet name for him is Lemauja, which in Chinese means hairy monster. My dad always was kind of a big gorilla of a guy. And God, he was scary a while ago. My friends were very intimidated by him. He used to bench press 250 when he was like 47 or something crazy like that. The guy didn't stop working out until his shoulder gave out on him. And Nina, his wife, her Chinese name is Ningling, told him that he needs to stop. And that's when he finally stopped. And when I look at them, I don't see the classic male-dominated Chinese role in the household. It's very equal. She does the housework, he's the breadwinner, and besides that, he has opened up his emotions and every aspect of him that I hadn't seen very often before. He's very open-minded now. His anger is very, very low. He used to have serious anger issues. And he's more emotionally attached now than he's ever been. And I do believe she's awoken that in him by A, standing up to him sometimes, comforting him, and just being there for him. I honestly don't believe anyone's ever really stayed with him and supported him like he needed to in his life. And Nina being there for him has really helped. Anyways, I kind of got sidetracked, but it did sort of reinforce my theory. Getting back to Marita. Yes, her father is Mexican. Yes, her mother is Norwegian. And yes, her siblings are Asian and a variety of other ethnic backgrounds. But none of them seem to fit in with the classical roles that you'd see them play culturally. Her sister, who I met briefly, is a single mother, raising her daughter, working full-time, and seeing her boyfriend on the side, all while keeping a one-room apartment. And that's not something you typically see in the classic sort of cultural Mexican stereotype sort of thing for young mothers. And it's that sort of thing that I've always struggled with when facing cultural stereotypes. I hate it because some people do match it, but there are so many others, the majority, don't match it whatsoever. They're unique, and that's what I love. And that's part of the reason I did this on Marita too, is to prove that fact. So, the next question was, what role does emotional intimacy play in your relationship? This is the one she struggled with the most, and when I asked her this, she actually broke out into laughter. She has never known love. She highly doubts that she ever will. And every time that I tell her that, you know, I love you, I'm always going to be here for you, that sort of thing, she accepts it. But when it comes to men in a relationship, she does not know how to handle it. She does not know what to say, what to do. She's currently in a bit of a love triangle, not her fault at all. And that sort of thing has always been trouble for her. Emotions, when she's in a relationship, whether she believes it or realizes it or not, she does get emotionally attached. She does express these emotions. She just is not aware of it. She can't comprehend it, and she cannot control it. For example, when she's hurt and she's crying, she often won't realize the entire reason she's crying. I'll be able to pinpoint it for her, but even then, she's kind of iffy about it. So emotional intimacy, I'm hoping the future will play a huge role with her in her relationships. But as of now, she doesn't get emotionally attached to people she is seeing. What role does physical intimacy play in your relationship? Well, currently, she's seeing one guy. I can't for the life of me remember his name. I think it's Luke. I can't remember. Um, they are not currently in a real relationship. They're friends with benefits. They've never really talked about becoming more than that. And I mean, that's perfectly okay. That's for them to decide. They're both adults. Um, they're physically intimate. She sleeps over at his house very often, and they get along splendidly. Um, this physical intimacy, it has made her more attached to him. It has made him more attached to her. As a matter of fact, he actually told her that he loved her not too long ago. I was in the middle of something when she called me, so I wasn't actually able to follow up on what all happened. And I forgot to ask her when I called her to interview her about this. How I managed to do that, I have no idea. But she wasn't quite sure how to handle it at the time. I'm kind of hoping that she goes for it, and they start a relationship, and it's great because she really likes this guy and he loves her. It's crazy, and I'm really rooting for her to pull through this. But the physical intimacy is what really connects her to these people. It's what binds the relationship, and what it pretty much is the entire basis of it. She needs that physical contact, that physical desire, and that physical love, for lack of a better term, to fully be in a relationship and fully comprehend it. And I believe I covered why intimacy is needed in the relationship. And why is there a need for distance in their relationship? And this is where it gets interesting. This is where the love triangle comes into play. She currently is between two guys. One's her ex, and the other is the guy she's currently with. And her ex still loves her. Her ex wanted her to move in with her. And she has commitment issues, so that's when it started to fall apart. Is when he started saying, "I love you, please come live with me," that sort of thing. The need for distance with her is purely because she is not yet ready to comprehend and experience love. She's she's going through this and struggling to comprehend it, but keeping her distance is her way of keeping herself in check more than the other person. I'm going to pause this real quick, and I'll continue it in another segment. I just got some stuff I need to take care of real fast. Be right back.